This is the Comedy Album Book Club. Thanks for tuning in. This is Matt. Jason, our regular host, isn't able to make it. Today we are covering Jim Gaffigan's Mr. Universe. So as always, we recommend you stop the podcast, listen to the album, come on back, and then we'll talk about the show. And we are joined by Alicia Carrick, Liz Myers, Sunny B, and Miguel Martin Garcia. So Alicia is our featured panelist, just because she was the first person I asked. So Alicia is new to comedy, recently performed stand-up at Speakeasy at the 120 Diner, a stand-up and improv comedian, and is enjoying new opportunities performing comedy. Yeah. So thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me. So official.
Liz Myers recently performed at the Ha Ha Glug Glug at Henderson's Brewery and Winona Lodge's open mic, an improv and stand-up comedy student at Second City, and you're just exploring new comedy opportunities, right?
My life is a new comedy opportunity.
Excellent. Sunny, you are a real estate agent trying to tell some jokes, new to the comedy scene as well. You have about a year's experience, is that right?
The truth is, I'm just looking to see if anyone's looking to buy or sell a house right now. Now I'm saying I'm getting
Lean back in your chair.
Oh, right. Oh, man. I'm excited.
Now you're also studying at Second City as well?
You got it.
Excellent. Okay. And Miguel, you did your first stand-up set in Melbourne before signing up for and it didn't bomb, so you signed up for stand-up at Second City. You're taking your show on the road to Paris.
That's
year,
correct, yes. I got promoted, I got transferred, and there's a large English stand-up scene in Paris. So we're going for it.
Look at Harry.
So it's going to be like that scene in The Magnificent Mrs. Maisel where she's like standing in front of the drag performers and they're doing stand-up in English and some American in the audience is translating it into French for the Parisians. Okay. So you're all new to comedy. I guess we'll sort of like go around. What drew you to performing stand-up? I guess, Alicia, I'll start with you.
It was something that I always wanted to try. Just, it was an attractive art form to me. I think I have an Irish mom and an English teacher dad. And I feel like just language was always a source of humor, but also you can be smart about it, right? And that's what we like about comedy. It's subversive and all those things. And not that I'm at that level yet, but I think it's an interesting way. Landline.
Sorry.
Oh, that's great.
Landline.
Yeah, so
okay.
Irish mother, English
Sure, I was just saying.
subversion.
Yeah, but I mean, I, as a person, liked to talk in front of groups. I don't know, it was just I like to speak in front of people. But I also like comedy. It was something I wanted to try, thought it looked like a good time. It was always a goal, and then I eventually was nearing now, or actually it was just this last January, right? But then I'm like, I've never done that, and I'm not going to be in Toronto maybe forever. Well, maybe I will be, I don't know. But I feel as though I'm in the right place to explore this thing that I have wanted to try, and I finally just, bit the bullet and did it. And I find that I'm enjoying it, and it makes me happy to be doing it. So you want to lean into that and keep going.
Excellent.
That's it.
Now, Liz, how about you? What drew you to doing stand-up?
Well, like Alicia, I've always been a show-off. I've always been very comfortable talking in front of groups of people. I remember when I was a little kid, I was in French immersion and I learned the word for seal in French.
A lot of people were leaning into that.
4 or 5. I really wanted to tell everyone, and there was this big family dinner at, and this is classy, Eastside Marios. And none of the grown-ups were paying attention to me because they were all catching up. They were all from like out of province or whatever. And I was getting really frustrated that no one would look at me and listen to me because I had this really cool thing that I wanted to tell everyone. And so I stood up on my chair, which was at the end of the table, luckily enough. And I yelled from on top of my chair, "Hey, And then they all looked at me. Does anybody know what seal is in French? And then I saw the looks on their faces just fall. Like, I specifically remember my dad being like, because they all knew it was coming. And after I told them, because it's fuck.
For the non-Canadians.
For the non-French Canadians, non-Canadians, fuck is seal in French. And so I yelled fuck out.
So we also learned cock at the same time. So it was like fucking cock.
Cock and fuck.
Yeah.
So I yelled that out, and the entire restaurant turned towards my family's table, and I felt no shame. I felt no shame. And then I was trying to figure out what class I should take at Second City because I wanted to spend more money. And friend Emmy was like, I feel like you'd be really good at stand-up. Most of your improv is just basically giant long monologues anyways. And I was like, fuck it, I'll do it.
Fuck it.
Seal it.
We'll get yeah, seal it. Seal the deal.
Yeah. And Sonny?
Let's see. How does the story go? I feel I was always the person that wanted to make class fun, whether it be middle school, high school, just school in general. And if the teacher wasn't fun, I wanted to make it fun. However I could, call it a class clown or whatnot. And then eventually that attitude kind of stuck with me throughout work. And I had a lot of colleagues kind of say, hey, you should do stand-up. And then like one person said it, and then eventually I would kind of meet somebody else, they would say it. And then I really wanted to get into the idea of public speaking. Like that was somewhat of a fear. How do I speak in front of a crowd? How do I speak to people? Yada, yada, yada. And I'm like, you know what? This might be the best of both worlds. Or A, I gained the confidence to speak in front of a large crowd when I meant to, or supposed to, not under the influence.
Yeah.
And then at the same time, kind of get creative with the writing aspect.
Miguel, so first time doing stand-up was in Melbourne,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
So what drew you to that, and maybe tell us a bit about Melbourne?
So I've always been a comedian. I used to use it as a bit of a wall before I came out because I was afraid that if anybody ever found out that I was gay, that they would hate me. But hey, nobody hates the funny guy. But then after that, after I came out, it turns out that I'm actually just funny. So I've had friends pushing me to do stand-up for a while. And while I was there earlier this year, I figured, hey, the worst that can happen is, I completely bomb and these people call up border security and they have me arrested. But the next worst thing is that, I never see these people again. But then it went quite well. And I decided to do Second City courses here. And now a hobby is born.
How has the Second City experience been for all of us? You're all... Except for Lisa, you're not taking the stand-up yet.
Right.
You've taken the improv courses, and I've been taking the improv as well. But how has Second City been to you guys as for helping you with your craft?
I think it's been really good because, especially like the second level stand-up, where we have to come up with a new set every week based on a topic. Like you're forced to be funny, and
You're forced to write.
Yes, you're forced to write. You're forced to write well.
Yeah, you're thinking about it.
So
You're being judged.
it's not just helping you to learn how to tell a story. It's teaching you how to tell a story quickly.
Well, comedy. There's the analogy that, or not analogy, but the saying, all musicians want to be comedians, all comedians want to be musicians. And it's sort of, to a degree, it's sort of like, it's comedy, writing jokes is like writing a song. And that you have to, there's craftsmanship to it, there's an awareness to it. So it's challenging you to sit down and compose, essentially, from the sounds of that class.
Yeah, it's like writing, but you're learning a different kind of writing.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
It's completely different, yeah. It's really, I'm really sorry, Second City. I'm really sorry. I'm probably not going to take level 3. I'm poor. But no, level 1, it was super focused on writing and actually getting them out, getting your premises out and getting those ideas just really flowing and just putting those ideas on paper and really crafting. Whereas the second level was great. It forced me to be accountable and to actually learn how to memorize shit without writing stuff. So actually just being able to have the jokes in your mind without writing them all out. And that's something that I was doing from the beginning. And real fucking difficult. God damn, I don't know what I was doing. I was shooting myself in the foot. But the most valuable thing through Second City actually was just meeting all of the people that I've met and connecting with this giant, amazing, supportive, incredibly supportive community. It's just like you have like this amazing cheering section of friends behind you no matter what you do, and they're so great. And it's just, I mean, is it worth $600? Yeah, it's probably worth $600. Okay.
All right, well, just to sort of introduce the album that we covered. So James Christopher Gaffigan was born July 7th, 1966 to Marcia and Michael Gaffigan in Elgin, Illinois. The youngest of 6 siblings, Jim decided early in life, at the age of 5, he wanted to be an actress. Despite that, his early inclination towards performing, his father, who was a banker, pushed him to pursue a more stable career. Regardless of his father's wishes, he chased a career in comedy inspired by Saturday Night Live, Seinfeld, Bill Murray, Richard Pryor, and David Letterman, for whom he would regularly audition over the course of 6 years living in New York, before finally landing a spot to promote his sitcom in 2015. His career started in earnest in 1991, mentored by Dave Attell, whom he would later base a character on in his 2015 sitcom. Jim's material was largely sarcastically observational, relating to his personal experiences growing up in a large Catholic family, his weight, and his relationships. He early on developed a sort of squeaky-voiced, self-deprecating audience through line. This voice, often sending up his own bits, was done to disarm hecklers before they had a chance to turn on him during his early stand-up days. He recorded his first special in 2005 for Comedy Central, which became his 6th album, Beyond the Pale. Mr. Universe, which reached number 53 on the Billboard comedy charts, was his 3rd special and was released independently in 2012, with a $1 of every album sale going to the Bob Woodruff Foundation, helping veterans and their families. This came at a time when other big-name comedians were experimenting with self-publishing. Gaffigan at the time was one of the top 10 grossing comedians in America and felt he could do the same. Now, he must have been onto something, because the album later went on to be nominated for the Best Comedy Album competing in the Grammys, competing against Kathy Griffin, Margaret Cho, Lewis Black, Tenacious D, and Jimmy Fallon, who brought home the award. Gaffigan has gone on to release 11 albums and 5 specials. His career has been varied beyond stand-up, including acting work with appearances on Law & Order, My Boys, Star vs. the Forces of Evil, Drunk Parents, upcoming film Tesla, Flight of the Conchords, and many more. He actually has over 103 acting credits, not to mention his writing, producing, and directing credits, including the series that he and his wife wrote called Pale Force, where he, a cartoon, Jim Gaffigan and Conan O'Brien would fight evil. He's even opened for Pope Francis during his visit to America. He did stand-up in Philadelphia for 1 million people waiting for the Pope, apparently. That happened the same year that his self-named sitcom, The Jim Gaffigan Show, started. He starred next to Ashley Williams, who played his wife Jeannie, Michael Ian Black, who played her friend Daniel, and Adam Goldberg, played a character named Dave, who is clearly based on Dave Attell. Many of the New York comedy fixtures and comedy world made appearances in this show, often eating at regular comedy hotspots and hangouts. Even John Mulaney, who is now arguably one of the biggest names in comedy, played himself on a regular basis, a fictionalized version of himself, where he was sort of a nemesis to Jim's character, sort of almost Newman-esque in a way, where Jim would make fun of things like, for example, Jim's show was on, I believe it was True TV, and John Mulaney's character got a deal for True TV, a series on True TV, and he's like, oh, what kind of loser would do that? And it's like, again, self-deprecatory, which is sort of his bread and butter. The sitcom ended after 2 seasons on a creative high. The series was co-wrote by Jim's wife, Jeannie, dealt with some very dark subjects, and often played with the entire concept of Jim as family-friendly, touching on some very sensitive topics. Any conversation about Jim is not complete without discussing his wife, Janie, and who is also his writing partner. Janie Gaffigan, nee Noth, is an actress, comedian, writer, and producer in her own right. Met Jim soon after moving to New York to pursue her acting career. They performed sketch comedy together and started dating. She co-wrote all 5 of his specials and was co-writer and producer of the Jim Gaffigan Show.
Didn't know that.
Yeah. So she, if you watch any of her specials, any of his specials, there's a there's a writing credit for her on all of them. I mean, which is fair because the material is 50% about her half the time.
Yeah.
I mean, it is, or at least what she made.
Yeah. I mean, the entire opening bit, all about their family. Now, while it was airing, she and Jim would often have hilarious back and forth interactions on social media where they're eating chips and just taunting one another. Sometimes when he was touring, they'd be Skyping. It was bizarre. She won a Christopher Award for her episode My Friend the Priest and directed the season finale. She's since gone on to write a book called When Life Gives You Pears, recounting her experience surviving a brain tumor that was found and removed in 2017 that was the size of a pear.
Oh, Jesus.
So
God dang, that woman's got a big brain.
yeah, well, it's amazing that what the human body can do and its resilience.
Yeah, holy, that's crazy.
Yeah. So, Alicia,
I was thinking the same thing. Don't worry.
You chose this album. What made you think of this one?
It was you.
It was I. I think it's lighthearted in some ways. Would you agree, everybody?
Yeah.
Some elements of it, and I think it's
and brevity.
yeah, and I guess I like the aspect that it's clean, like that may not be my humor, like whatever, but I think it's, if you're able to write like that, then I think there's something to say about it. But listening to it, I think this was probably like the 3rd or 4th time. Like, it's still funny. It has replayability. But I think I love that little voice that he does, where and I get that that's the whole, like, the anti-heckler, you're going to do it yourself. But that is funny.
But I find that the voice, and you guys can certainly chime in. I find the voice is a nice punch up to every joke.
100%.
So he's able to, like, here's the joke, and now here's a little garnish with that joke.
Yeah.
So he's able
Exactly
to,
what
like,
it
give a
is.
little
Right.
bit of
It's kind of like the pizza with the dipping sauce.
Yeah.
It's like, just in case the pizza doesn't sound or taste good, here's a little extra flavor.
And
for
even if it
context,
tastes good, it's gonna taste better.
So
you
there
could say
go,
that.
everyone.
You could say that.
Yes.
I feel a
It's
lot of
tightening.
Yes.
I feel a lot of his stuff might not be funny without the accent. Like, he might just say it, like, let's just say he said it in a normal voice. I don't have an example off the top, but I'll get one eventually. And it's like, he'll say the joke, but the accent makes it funny. But if he just said it without any accent,
It would just
without
be
nothing,
sort of
it
monotone.
would
Like,
just
you
be
can listen to the whole
his
thing.
His Schwarzenegger bit where he said, everyone can do a Schwarzenegger. Why can't he do anyone who actually can say governor or
Right.
whatever it was?
California.
Why can't Arnold
Yeah.
Schwarzenegger
Yeah.
do a joke about? Why can't Arnold Schwarzenegger do an impression of a person who can say California?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's adding
done,
in that
Matt. Well
voice
done.
that just brings the whole thing to life.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, what was everybody's first experience with Jim Gaffigan? So, I'll start with Alicia.
I watched it at I was visiting my parents in Windsor, and we watched it together as a family. And my dad's a big George Carlin fan. A lot of people are, but that's a lot of swearing and whatever. But now, as I think my dad's aged, he finds Jim Gaffigan to be just so smart without dropping the F-bombs all the time, whatever. And then he listens to comedians that are like our age now, and my dad, being my dad, might just be a little more critical,
In a way, it's
of
kind of
comedy.
like, especially if you look at his influences being like Richard Pryor, and his mentor was David Tell, who's like known for being foul-mouthed.
It's refreshing.
It's almost like it's a trick.
And that too.
Like, he could swear, he swears a couple
Absolutely.
of times in here, but
Yeah.
he doesn't go into it because it's it's executing a technical feat kind of thing there.
It's like the bare bones comedy. Like sometimes you can get the shock factor out of dropping the F-bomb, whatever it is, you know. But I think
if you don't need it,
yeah, I think it's a testament to him and just his ability to write. You know, like obviously looking at his past, you're like, okay.
Yeah, now that you're saying it, like I'm realizing now that there were. I don't think were there any F-bombs?
Not what?
But he said bullshit.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
bullshit.
Shit.
Bullshit. I do not count as a swear word because
it's one of those like in America they count it as a swear word.
But it's also actually been a word used in the title of a scientific study. So like on bullshit.
Yeah.
So for me, it's a scientific word now.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, like he uses a little bit of blue language, but nothing that I would make that I'd consider the set blue for
no,
using.
definitely not.
Yeah.
No.
How about Liz? What was your first experience? Well, not necessarily with this album, but just Jim Gaffigan in general.
So it was actually, I was thinking about this earlier. I do not remember the first time that I ever heard or saw Jim Gaffigan. He's kind of just ever present. He's this ever present ghost of comedy who's still alive. He's like this zombie ghost who's looming over everybody, and he's still goddamn hilarious. I do not remember the first time I ever saw him, but to go back to what Miguel and Alicia were saying, you don't need to be ultra blue to be funny. It's like a technical feat of strength, right? He's like in these comedy Olympics. So how can you deliver a dirty joke without being dirty?
I mean, and he does some really dark material. It's not as in this album, not as much as others or his sitcom,
But it's dark.
where
It's
it's like
dirty.
there's pedophile jokes and stuff like
But
not
it's
like
not
ha
crude.
funny, but it's like it's not crude.
poignant
and it's
still.
like the target is punching the right
Yes,
direction.
Exactly.
But it's like there's dark subject material, but he does it in such a way where it's like almost
He's
stealth.
punching
It's
up instead
really
of punching
witty.
down.
Yeah.
He's actually really witty.
Yeah.
Because he could just get away with what he's saying. Even with the episode that we just watched, like he's making fun of people that are overweight. But you know what? Like he takes his shots at them, and then he takes a shot at all the extra fit guys.
But
you're a
also,
bodybuilder,
like,
huh?
he takes it
well balanced.
in a way that's like
Yeah, he's not saying.
self-deprecating. Deprecating.
Yeah, he's not necessarily saying "ha ha, you're fat." He's
It's
making
like,
fun.
ha, I'm sad.
Yeah,
You know, because he's a fat guy. He's a tall, big man.
He's a little pudgy.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't seen him naked, so I can't.
I believe the word for him is blubber. Sorry.
Yes.
But there's still messages behind what
Yes.
he's saying. I mean,
100%.
I love the McDonald's bit. It's all McDonald's, and it's, you know, he comments about him being like your stereotypical white trash guy or something like that. Like, but it's, you know, it's still something
What I
all
mean-
people can relate to.
What
But
I
like,
found with
you're right, it's garbage.
I'll loop back around to the McDonald's bit. But what I found about that is it's not really about McDonald's.
No.
That's
No.
the
Once
beauty
we're done
of it.
eating, we should get something to eat.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Disney.
It's just it's culture.
Yeah, it's a wonderful metaphor for mass media culture and
Yeah.
and everything we're kind of force fed.
It's kind of like a wake-up call. Like, hey, this is what's going on, guys.
When health is less accepting than McDonald's, it's Anyways, we'll loop back around McDonald's,
Yes.
right, Matt?
Yeah,
Okay,
we will.
perfect.
So where was your first Jim Gaffigan experience?
Okay. So the truth was, it was this commercial to his show where he just lifts up the thing and he shows his kid like, oh, which one is it or something like that.
Yeah.
Oh right.
And then, and then I tried. I just didn't like him. I didn't like anything. I don't know what it was. Sorry, guys. But
No, that's fair.
Don't apologize.
fair enough. The first, I tried to watch one of his specials, and it sucks to say that I don't remember what it was, but I ended up turning it off because it was basically like, I get it, you got a lot of kids and you're not in shape. And
Right, it was probably this one.
I don't know, but whatever happened, I didn't watch the whole thing and I wasn't happy. And I think I said that before I walked in here today too. I'm like, I'm not really a fan of this guy.
Yeah.
However, now that I kind of completed the whole thing, I really enjoyed his creativity. I like this wordplay. I like this wittiness. I like the way he kind of put it in subliminals. There's a lot of stuff that he did there that, like, I don't even know right now, but I just kind of ate it. Like, I was like, oh, give me more. Like, that was good, you know?
Did it help that you weren't watching him?
I was gonna add that in. I didn't know if we're gonna loop around, but the fact that we just
hearing,
listened
yeah.
and I can visualize what he's saying was a bonus for me. Because then I thought if I actually saw this, it would be even funnier but I'm already laughing at the fact that I'm just listening to what you're saying, and I can picture.
See, he does some really good stage work.
Yeah.
The phone.
The phone was like,
so good.
But the fact that we didn't watch it, we listened to it, and it was still hilarious.
Yeah.
That's a lot of credit to his writing skills, right?
yeah.
His writing ability.
There's not much in like there. How many tracks are there? But there's not much in there that is a sight gag. You know, that's dependent on him having this one, two.
Visual.
Is that purposeful though? Because maybe that's his style then? Because I know a lot of people, you have to see them to laugh at what they're doing, right?
There's 14 tracks.
Yeah.
The longest one is Working Out. McDonald's is the longest one at 10 minutes and 20 seconds, which is
That's a
long time to talk about McDonald's.
but that bit's probably like 5 or 6 smaller bits.
Yeah.
One bit.
All of my McDonald's bits now.
Yeah. But I feel regardless, if you watch it, it's always funny.
It didn't lag. Like watching it, it didn't like feel like, oh, this is dragging. Like there's some albums that I listen to, even the people I super respect, like Steve Martin, that
Too physical for an album.
Well, with him,
sometimes.
is a conscious decision. That's
I know, but like
with him, it's because he is pioneering anti-comedy. That was almost like a fuck you to the listener. So that was a very deliberate choice. But there are other comedians who they just don't think about it.
Right.
They don't realize I'm recording this for an album.
Yeah.
This isn't going to play well. So I think there's some awareness to his material.
Maybe my opinion is coming from the fact that I don't have an improv background. I don't have the kind of stage presence that I would want. I kind of think that what I write, I say it, and maybe it would be better if you just heard it opposed to seeing it. And I think that's what I really liked about it, the fact that I'm still laughing at your jokes, and I'm not there, I'm not watching you. I'm just listening, and I'm laughing.
Yeah,
so it's like, that's a lot of extra effort or talent or however you want to put it.
And that's one of the reasons why we kind of like want to focus on, because like the tradition of the comedy album going back to the 50s and 60s, it kind of makes you focus in on the material in a different way. So that's one of the reasons why we're like, I will often watch the special as well to play them one off the other, like contrast and compare. But in this case, it's just there's like no difference. Like there's not it's line for line, beat for beat, and which just speaks to like a capable his capability as a writer, as a joke teller.
Yeah, but even as a performer, because if we back it up, now he doesn't have the actions behind it the way we experience this, but he's still just punch, because I feel like some people kind of do their actions and that's kind of like their break or their segue into the next thing. He didn't really we didn't.
It was
really
continuous.
We didn't experience that, so it's kind of like he took the right amount of time, even via audio, to get to the next point, to get to the next.
It's true, because sometimes I'll listen to
great on delivery.
I'll listen to my set. I record all of my sets, right, and I'll listen to it, and every now and then I'm like, if this is all anyone was hearing, would they get the joke?
Yeah.
No, they would not.
Yeah.
And so then I have to really like try and fine tune what I'm doing.
Yeah. Well, there's we recently did an album, Beth Stelling's Simply the Beth, who's an freaking amazing comedian, and she was very much in the same tone. Whereas like there's not a wasted second, and doesn't necessarily feel frantic. But there's like just everything serves a purpose within the comedy, and I felt like that's kind of like what was with
so
Jim.
well organized.
Yeah,
feels full.
Yeah, you can't just talk like some people will just. If I talk really really fast, people will think that I'm funny and blah blah blah, but that's not true.
Yeah. No, what was your first experience with Jim Gaffigan?
Would you believe tonight?
But hey, there's a first time for everyone.
Yeah.
So excellent.
So yeah, that's pretty much it tonight.
Wait, that was your first time, Miguel?
Yeah, I'm a very
He didn't
bad
even-
comedian.
He's worse than me. He didn't even know his name.
Yeah, I'm a very bad comedian.
So
Yeah, so
happy I was here
That's how I
to
feel
experience
sometimes.
your first time.
I never thought I'd hear a woman say that.
I'm always somebody's first, honey.
There's that
So-
confidence.
So we kind of touched on this, but like he works clean in his set. Like there's not any obviously blue material, but there's a lot of dark themes in there, like Ronald McDonald, the 70s pedophile clown. A lot of
where's the lie?
cynicism, a lot of
He references suicide a lot.
suicide,
Cancer.
self issues, self
Well, even
issues.
that. No, that's
The long sleeve sun shirt.
So do you
Yeah.
feel
I
that,
can relate
that
to the long sleeve
his
sweatshirt.
cheery tone, like even that secondary voice and some, because he uses voices a lot.
Yes, he
Accents.
does.
Not just that one, like accents and just funny voices.
Yeah.
The
like
salesman
the
voice.
New Yorker.
The
that he did,
salesman
the
voice.
salesman voice, that New York.
Selling everything.
Yeah. Well, while you come in here, and you can pay me to use a machine that, instead of buying at home, like
The
that
stairs,
New York.
they don't go anywhere. People just use them.
Yeah. So he sort of almost feels like he's stealthing in these concepts through this silliness. Is that something that you think is?
Well, people
useful, or
relate
what?
to some sort of stereotypical voice
If we're,
that has that connotation.
if we're dissecting him, I feel like it's definitely useful in his style, because it's kind of like maybe I don't need as much, again, because we're listening to it, right? I don't need as much actions or whatever stage presence, even though he has it still, but the way he's doing the accents is so adding to the joke.
Well, it's like that Mama Domino's, and it's not just like and other Italian stereotypes. Like it's just that's a terrible Italian accent.
Yeah.
But
And other puns.
and other puns. But yeah, like he's deconstructing the jokes within the jokes too, which is
If
like,
I were to use a
So
publishing
meta.
metaphor, the jokes are the main text of the story, but then you have graphics that might visually illustrate it, or a picture that'll visually illustrate it, and that's what those voices are. That's what those imitations are. Those are the ones that really catch your attention because they're the picture. They don't necessarily take over the whole story, but they will tell you this. They will tell you a story just by themselves.
Yeah. Now, so like one of the things one of the moments that I really loved is actually occurred fairly early on, and it was one of those like really like doubling down on the darkness. Was the bit about the using of Sarah McLachlan song. And then the dog's like, whoa. So even the dogs are like, oh, well, that was a bit heavy-handed, Sarah. And it's like, aren't there still starving kids in Africa? And it's like, where he's like just using that
Yes.
joke to just like shade in, like that voice to shade in the colors of that scene.
Just
he's
like
painting.
throwing mad shade on middle class bougie white people who are
Yeah.
like, oh my god, the poor animals.
Yeah. Now it's but kind of interesting because I was looking at the structure because we have Disney. The first it goes the Disney bits, gym and bodybuilders, then McDonald's, hotel and hotel pools.
I swear overweight in McDonald's is before bodybuilding.
He loops
Or he
back.
kept doing- he keeps doing it.
does
Yeah.
it.
Well, basically, food and fat run throughout.
Yes.
Yeah.
everything. Because I mean, it's always defined as material. Like his big breakout bit was the Hot Pocket thing,
Hot Pockets.
like 20 years ago on almost.
But like, what is Disney?
These aren't skinny
Well,
jeans.
I'm just
Other than an amalgamation of food and fat.
Well, it kind of like looking at it, like thinking about it, it almost breaks into like a 3-act play kind of thing, because the initial portion, like Disney and the gym, is about self-loathing.
Yes.
And bodybuilders, and even that is like
And self-loathing.
Yeah, it's like
But a lot of self-loathing.
Yeah, so that first act is about loathing of the self. The second act is
Also, loathing of the self. Sorry, go ahead.
it was McDonald's hotel pools, and then it has the whales, which I think is kind of a hard transition point, which is about culture. It's like the cultural delusionment, like where he's talking about how they just enjoy the fucking McDonald's. They never pretended to be anything more than what they are.
Yeah.
Just stop belly aching and just enjoy it. But also like in the hotel, like the shoes and the slippers and laziness and like just creepiness, like people making out in the pool.
Comment on convenient
even
society.
something else being your version of McDonald's. Like maybe you're reading this magazine, that's your McDonald's. You know?
Yeah, and the whale is a bit of a hard transition. It almost feels inserted.
Right.
But then the third portion,
Except for the sperm.
yeah,
Yeah.
this. I think it's just a pivot point where he's like, I gotta put in something funny here.
I gotta make whale noises at some point during
Yeah.
this gig.
Gotta be that water in the Indian Ocean.
Ooh, my tummy hurts.
But the third point, so that's Domino's, Subway, and boner pills. Vitamins and boner pills.
Right.
Flintstones, vitamins, and Law Order.
Yes.
I'd eat the fuck out of Law and Order.
Oh my god, give me a Lenny.
Vitamins. But that one really seems to be about excess and lack of control.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, like, in a lot of albums that we've listened to on the show, like, the most effective ones seem to have a thread.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, there's one here, but it's really subtle. It's not, like if you, it doesn't have, like, if you, Ellen did...
Well, he starts it out, though. Kind of. Sorry. He starts it out with excess and lack of control.
Yeah,
that's
it
his
loops
opener.
around.
His opener is how he just had another kid. It's
Yeah.
his fourth kid. What else is that other than excess and lack of control?
Yeah, and I mean, like, the pilot to a sitcom is about how he won't get a vasectomy
Yeah,
because
exactly.
he's afraid of it.
Yeah.
But
God,
again,
I
it's
totally
touching on
relate
that. But no, it's interesting. It's like, it's there. There is definitely a structure and a thematic through line to his material in this special and the album that was recorded. But it's not as obvious as, like, maybe some other ones. Like Ellen's latest special, and actually her one prior to that as well, that she did when her show was canceled in the 90s. Is very much...
Mad About You?
No, the Ellen Show. Mad About You is somebody else. What's her name? I can't remember.
What was the Ellen Show?
The Ellen Show.
Yeah,
Oh,
Really ignoring the
Like,
fact that we
the
talked about a
sitcom?
vasectomy so quickly.
An Ellen special, like
Helen Hunt.
Helen Hunt. That's
Thank
right.
you.
So an Ellen special, it very much is like, it starts with a bit and then ends with this bit. It's a through line, a thematic through line. Carlin would do that a lot as well, where he'd, like, have a thematic through line to his material. Robin Williams at the Met was like that as well. So I mean, how
Lots of comedians.
yeah. So for, like, a special, how important is it for, like, an hour for, like, an album or a set? Like, as comedians, how important do you feel it is? And do you think he did it effectively in this album?
Yes. He definitely did it effectively. I think it's important to a point. I think it's really good if you're able to tie everything loosely together, but I have to stress loosely. I find when the common thread is too in your face, like it's too like you're being figuratively hit over the head with it, that it's just a little bit overbearing and I kind of lose interest.
I thought it flowed pretty well. Like, I didn't find the whale stuff to be hard inserted the way you did.
Yeah, thematically it was a hard pivot, but as a joke, it flowed fine.
Yeah, and
Like,
because actually, in that sense, he pretty much reminds me of the way that I structure my sets. So, like come up with a theme, but make sure the transition to the next theme works well, and then so on and so on. With, of course, occasional callbacks to previous jokes because they were so funny in the first place.
I just think it's a matter of opinion. I feel like, as a fan or the person that's getting entertained, as long as it's entertaining me, as long as it's funny, I don't really care where you go with it. If it adds up together or it doesn't, if I'm laughing, I'm satisfied.
But with the insertion of that whole whale bit, like, the themes are heavy, right? And so that whale thing was sort of the lighthearted send off into the horizon of, like, I'm going to leave this theater happy, right?
Yeah.
Which I
Except
think
for
was
whales are heavy.
Right? That's what I was gonna say, because it kind of does go together. Oh,
It's
I had
a
a lady
weighty
come
subject.
up to, because he's like, a lady came up to me after the show and told me that whales aren't bad. They're actually got a lot of blubber, and then he went into the whole thing about
it was sort of
Look
a,
at the big bones and all that.
It was still a lighthearted thing, but then you're like, okay, well, there's still about the
Weighty
weight
but
thing.
buoyant.
Like,
Yeah.
It was
He's
sort
like,
of a-
swimming's not
it was
working,
clever.
guys.
Yeah, it was
Whales are
clever.
swimming a
But I
lot,
do
but
think-
it's not really a great exercise.
But I'm going to disagree with you. Like, I find disjointed sets, like jokes that are funny, but then they don't connect into other jokes. To me, it's just kind of random, and I might lose interest after a while.
Yeah.
Again, might be a difference of opinion, but that's me.
Alicia, sorry, you were saying?
It's okay. You can be
No, that's
wrong.
okay.
No, I want to hear
No,
you.
I say-
you said it right the first time.
I did the both of you. Shh.
No, I was just gonna say, like, and as a new comedian that isn't obviously in a class where they speak to structure, like 101, right there.
True.
Like, when I'll say this about you and I getting together after you heard my set, kind of thing, and like, I'm so glad that you paid the money and I didn't because I got to get it for free.
You did.
But
A fan of that. A fan of getting it for free.
Like I sort of went into this just sort of like okay, I'm gonna try it, but like zero research, and maybe I probably should have done that. And like you obviously watch comedians, and there is a thread, there is a theme, and there is the callback and the structure, all of it. Like mine was not that, and that's okay.
Yeah,
like,
of course it is.
Well, yeah,
Sure.
There's
a
room
laugh.
for other. Like this
Right.
is a style.
But,
there's other
yes.
styles. Like there's the one-liner.
Exactly.
But it's
There's
kind of nice
obscurus
to
and absurdus.
like dissect a podcast, and like grateful for this podcast that you're doing, because then you get to analyze and you're like, that is something that I'd like to work towards, and it makes you think about what you're putting in to your set, because you have people listening
Oh,
to it,
exactly.
and you
You're
want to put this through, right? And so it's just like, wow, the job is a lot bigger than it looks.
I feel
But
like
at
there's-
least not having taken a class makes you so much cooler than the rest of us.
And that hat? Oh my god.
My God, the
I wish I
hat.
could see the hat.
She's wearing a hat. I mean, it is several different shades of neon. Okay, no, that's not true.
You
No,
know
it's
what?
not.
But it's like if we're really breaking
That's
this
your hat,
down,
Miguel.
it comes to a lot of different things. Like we're judging it as comedians, so that's one thing. So we'll have our own style, our own opinion. But then there's the common person that is kind of just like, hey, yeah, I'll pay $120 to go see this guy live. He's funny.
Yeah,
You know what I mean, right?
Yeah, the peasants,
like
yes.
the person that wants to be entertained.
Listener.
We shall call the
listener.
peasants.
As long as you get to throw things from the balcony.
But like to them, I feel like if you like look in their perspective, I don't think they're looking at it that deeply, right?
Well, I mean, that's the thing, though. It's like
That's the
it's
craft.
what makes good storytelling. It's the craft. It's like they're not necessarily looking at that, but that's how you get your message through, and you keep them entertained.
Yeah.
Even the craft, though, like, what is the craft? Like you know what I mean? Like, I get that it's not flowing, but what is the purpose of the craft? Is it to flow? Is it not to flow?
Well,
or is
it's
it
to
just
keep people
have them
entertained.
laughing? Exactly.
And I mean, and there's different ways of doing it.
Agreed.
Like this,
But-
you compare him to, I don't know.
You could compare it to anybody, but I feel like the end goal is
Shit.
the
Anyone.
end.
Jeselnik, Hedberg.
Yeah.
Hedberg, Mitch Hedberg.
There we go.
Yeah.
One-liners.
Something
One-liners.
there's complete opposite
Yeah.
spectral difference.
Jeselnik and Hedberg.
To compare them, though, at the end of the day, the deciding factor whether it was good or not would be if the people that are watching or listening to it were entertained, right?
course.
Yeah, I mean, like I like Richard Wright, but that's.
But
or
it's for
Stephen
those
Wright,
that are
excuse me,
looking
I like
for that
Stephen
extra-
Wright, who's again
Yeah.
I hear you.
that like
Yeah.
straight, like dry, one-liner, monotonal. It makes I grew up in the '80s, and that was like what was against the brick wall at the comedy whatever. And so I mean, I loved it, but at the same time, it's like it's a different type of meal. Like with a one-liner getting like an amuse-bouche of jokes.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so, like, I can appreciate the craft of a comedian who, like, so there are certain. I'm not super partial to the one-liners, let's be real. But I find Jeselnik and Hedberg fucking hilarious, obviously, because they're amazing and they're really good at what they do. Just because it's not my favorite kind of comedy doesn't mean that it's not good or I can't appreciate the work that they put into it and their craft.
There you go. That's the best way to put it.
Yeah, and this is very joke heavy. Like, so it's storytelling, but it's not a storytelling comedy.
No,
It's a lot of
stand-up.
punches.
It's a lot
It's
of
like
punches,
joke,
puns,
joke, joke, joke,
joke.
joke,
Yeah, and when
joke, joke, joke,
and
joke.
when even when he's not doing like a setup, like a okay, here's the setup, here's the punchline. He's doing a pun or doing something, a dad joke to sort of like just keep the energy going. So I mean, you compare him to say like somebody like I don't know Patton Oswalt.
I love Patton
who I love
Oswalt.
as well.
Oh.
But it's a very different pacing too, which I find
Incredibly
interesting.
different.
So again, and also addressing similar themes, similar kind of ideas. But so it's interesting you have these different methods to get to the same place.
I respect
Thank God
him
for that.
even more as a writer, though, for his ability to just keep going joke, 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 joke,
Yeah.
joke, joke, accent, joke, 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 like just
Yeah.
pow, 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 pow. It's like a whole bunch of flurries. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it never
Sorry,
feels
McFlurries.
Oh.
But it doesn't feel overwhelming. Like there's sometimes when
Miguel
people
just raised the roof, guys.
Yes. But yeah, sometimes it just feels like it's overwhelming. Like he still paces it in a way that it feels like you have time to let the jokes sink in.
I agree.
Yeah.
He's got a lot of subtle stuff in there too.
Yeah.
I feel like he actually serves all kinds of flavors. Like if you just want it in your face, he's got the obvious stuff. But if you want like some of the subtle secret stuff,
Speaking of the obvious stuff in your face,
yeah.
Sonny.
I actually thought Miguel was gonna say something. I kind of set him up there, but
I've had at least 2 more
Sometimes
beers
it's
than
too
Miguel.
easy. Sometimes it's easier than me.
So
That's me. That's
oh
me.
my god, he's so good at puns. He's so good at puns.
So good fun. That's true.
Now, for me, I tend to be a storyteller. People who know me can attest to this. That I like telling stories. So hearing a story with punchline after punchline, that's what I aspire to when I write. That said, I'm a big fan of Anthony Jeselnik, but at the same time, that's kind of what I aspire to, like to be able to tell a story that's funny throughout.
Yeah. Well, and a lot of this, like, speaking of like funny throughout, is pretty timeless. Like this is 2012, which explains the one element of the subway content.
That was the only thing that kind of stuck out.
And I mean, that's
that wasn't
like
timeless.
If those circumstances hadn't arisen,
It still would have been timeless.
Been fine. It's like us as a modern audience knowing the Jared situation.
The entire time watching this is like I watched it last night for the first time in a real okay, I'd seen it before, but I did not remember it accurately, and so I rewatched it last night. And the entire time he was doing that subway bit, I kept waiting for him to drop like the pedo bomb.
Yeah.
And he didn't, and I was like, "Wait, what? Why is this not happening?" Because it just seemed so relevant. Like it seemed so current.
But it's like 5 years too early.
Exactly.
So so it's like if that hadn't happened, you
wouldn't have been able to tell.
The material,
I couldn't tell.
Yeah. So that's something beyond his control.
Yeah, whereas
Yes.
Ronald McDonald being a pedophile clown, that was true in the 70s, that's true today, and that'll be true in 2964.
Yes. Yeah.
This is just the way it is.
Creepy clown.
I mean, clowns are clowns.
Clowns are evil.
Clowns
They
are-
scare me.
I have many friends who are clowns.
I don't mind clowns. I think clowns are clowns. That's all I'm saying. Clowns are clowns.
I've had
I think
nightmares.
some commercial clowns are creepy. To all of my friends in the clowning community, I respect your art and craft, and
I also
look
respect
forward
yours to my
studying
friends.
one day.
I think you're in comedy.
Now, of course,
you're a bit
something
of a
I do
clown.
want to do one day is, of course, stand at the corner
We're all
of Yonge and
clowns.
Dundas at 3 a.m.
No, we're not.
dressed as
No,
a clown.
you're craft.
Nothing else.
And I have to say, like the Law and Order vitamins
Oh, yeah.
was hilarious.
Oh my god.
True, yeah.
I would eat the shit out of the Sam Waterston vitamin.
Yeah.
You're so healthy.
Yeah, just full of righteous indignation.
And you know what? If you don't eat those vitamins, you feel guilty.
He's so good. He's so good.
So good. I did buy myself gummy vitamins the other month, and I ate them for like a solid 3 weeks, like religiously, and then I forgot and stopped, and they're sitting on top of my fridge, and I'm just remembering that. But you will eat gummies more often.
Yeah, because they're like candy.
Like a candy.
Like candy.
Yes, this is true.
But I mean, like, if they were, like, maybe one was in the shape of Mandy Patinkin's face. Not Law and Order, I would eat that.
Yeah. Vitamins, anyways, you're not
Everyone
really
loves a good
effective.
juju.
Yeah.
Just piss him out.
Yeah. But
So if you ever
like,
want green piss, yes, eat a
the
vitamin.
thing is, the thing with that vitamin thing is that was just really a setup.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was like a 5-minute setup to the Extends pills.
Yeah,
Because you know he just wanted to end on a dick joke.
I'm just in the gym right now, trying to waste an hour, so I'm not eating.
But it was just to get him from point A to point B.
Which is funny because I thought the vitamins were funnier than the Extends.
But I mean, I think
I also don't
Yes.
have a penis. I don't have a penis.
I it was funnier, but there was elements that were like the Jimmy Johnson and the Dick Butkus.
I did find that
so
funny.
it
was
Actually,
not funny at
that
all.
was one of my
Yeah.
least favorite parts of the joke.
I just
I thought it came
It was
across
just-
as a bit obvious.
yeah, but it was that's kind of what
That's where his accent.
Whoa!
That's where I feel like his accents failed a little bit. Because typically, if he threw in more accents there, I don't think he did. It would be a little bit more funnier.
A little more of a treat for the ears.
You know
You
what I
don't
mean? It would
really
just
care
be
for
like,
the
oh,
dick
he's got
joke.
an accent. Ha ha.
But I mean,
ha.
really, like all of that still was the setup to that last.
It's true,
Th-
but
this
I
is-
was
like,
nice
here,
setup.
actually kind of disappointed
No.
by the extent. Like,
No.
that was
No.
my least favorite part of his entire
But maybe you
album.
would have loved it in 2012. Who knows?
Was that even me?
How old was I in 2012?
Well, I was very immature in
I feel
2012,
like
so yes.
this
I
is
don't
where
know.
like we gotta like look at another thing that he does, right? I feel like his accents make his jokes a lot funnier, but there's certain jokes where it's like is that laziness or is that the ingredient? Like, I mean, if he just said the joke, I don't think I'm laughing as much. But when he adds in the accent, I'm like, haha, that's funny. Is it funny? No, I think the accent's more funny than the actual joke. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah, I mean...
So it's like, that's a great example of where he didn't do the accent. I guess we could listen to it.
But for me, like the capper was two things. Was the phone mining, which you don't get, but they still get
Fucking love the phone
You still
miming.
get
So
the
good.
line. About,
Why do you guys love the phone miming? I want to know.
Because it's just funny.
I'm not even talking on a real phone right now.
Yeah.
But he's like heightening and deconstructing at the same time.
Yeah, it was really funny.
So
He does that a lot, though.
he constantly deconstructs.
Yeah.
That's all he.
usually.
I love that.
Yeah.
I feel like he engages you so much as the audience because he'll say a joke and then he'll almost mimic what you might be thinking, and I'm sure a lot of people might be thinking what he does next.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think that's great. It's like, oh my god, I was really thinking what he was talking about.
Yeah, so it's a very meta movie on multiple layers. I mean, you have like it's a kind of, like the talking on the phone bit is a timeless bit that goes back to like one of the first comedy albums. Like goes back to like if you go to Bob Newhart,
Bob Newhart,
one of the first comedy albums ever
Meta
was
AF.
structured around him talking on the phone to Abe Lincoln was one of the key bits. In fact, it's the bit that they use as an example of somebody ripping it off in The Amazing Mrs. Maisel.
Now,
I
of
just
course,
love that
this
you
was
guys have so
no,
much like
this was, of course,
background on
before
that.
the
That was
Revolutionary
amazing.
soldiers stormed the phone company.
Yes.
Right before they
Do it.
stormed the airports.
Yeah. But that is a Trump joke for those in 2949 listening to a podcast.
Yeah, that was a Trump joke.
Yeah. So like it's just so it's like it's a stale bit, but he heightens it in some really fun ways.
It wasn't stale. He did not perform it. It
Like
wasn't
as
stale.
a bit. It's
Oh yeah, it's a
whole
stale bit, but if
it's
you don't
not
do it,
stale
like,
because
exactly
the way he
because of the way
performed
he's doing it, it's
And-
so good.
And it's just
I was surprised at how funny it was.
He dragged it out for just the right amount of time, and then
Sorry, can we repeat that? What are we talking about right now?
the phone bit,
Okay,
Yeah.
fair enough. Yeah.
and then he ends with a callback. Like, I'm trying to remember
What hotel are you in?
Yeah,
Well,
what hotel
hotel,
are you
there you
in?
go.
Which is like not even a callback to the start. It's a callback to
Mid, like
a
three
middle
quarters
of
in.
the show where he's talking
What
about
room
the
are you?
creepy-
What room are you
what room
in? Oh, the kid
creepy
and the woman,
kid
like the kid and the old woman, and how it's like the cycle of life, and it's like
Yeah.
because you kind of like start at
So
one
it's like
place
a
and you end at
very-
one place, and it's like we're all at that one place.
Yeah, so it's like a very random callback.
Yeah.
But I mean, like you think if you're like, okay, I'm going to do a callback. I'm going to do a callback to one of these big moments. But it wasn't. It was a callback to like a really random, which actually worked better, I found.
So
Contrary to what I
wow.
was saying earlier, I feel like that would have been funnier if I watched it. Like maybe just the audio of it wasn't
Yeah.
as funny.
Yeah.
Even though you guys found it funny, like,
right.
I thought it was okay.
I'm
I've
going to
seen
agree
the
with you
video.
on this because I didn't realize he was doing the whole phone mining thing. But once I heard that,
Thank
I
God.
told
that
you.
it suddenly become really funny because this isn't a real phone. He said into his finger.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, you could visualize
and he's,
it,
like,
but
he's like breaking the fourth wall while breaking the fourth wall. Like he's like the audience are getting kind of bored now. I'm filming a special, you know. Like he's like he's doubling down on the breaking of the fourth wall, which is like it's just so bananas. It's so weird,
Layers.
but it works.
is this guy telling a shoe joke right now? Oh, a sock joke? Is he really going to tell a sock joke?
And then he tells us,
And then he tells a sock joke.
Multiple.
Is
Yeah.
he doing? Oh my god, he's doing that voice already.
When the elastic. Yeah.
"What a diarrhea joke?"
Oh, the elastic goes out.
we might as
The
well.
good old geographic diarrhea joke.
But on that, the sock going missing and keeping the one sock, that's been recycled by everybody.
Yeah, but the thing is, the way he
Still made it funny.
structures it and presents it,
Yes.
it feels fresh.
Yeah,
And I think that's really
Hearing
interesting.
about his sock
With the
retirement,
accent
that's
or
not
mixing
something
it
I
up with his other jokes? Like, what part of it makes it funny?
I think the punch up, of, not so much the voice that he does, but like the inserting that metacriticism where he's like the concept of the through line for the audience is important. So often the comedian presents themselves as the through line, and that he's presenting it as a secondary character is that's unique. In that he's doing this is like he's presenting himself as both the comedian and the voice of the comedian, which I find interesting. And I find it just it elevates it from something that is like, oh, this is
And he does the same thing to project his opinion, like similar to what you might be thinking.
yeah.
Like,
And it's like it's a really crafty way of steering the audience in a way.
Getting them involved without them being involved.
Yeah.
So it's like, I know what you're thinking right now.
And it's like almost like it's it's a negative connotation, but like gaslighting. But it's kind of like he's gaslighting the audience, and
essentially he is gaslighting the audience, but in a
good way.
Yeah.
Intention.
Not a horrible human being way.
No.
Having had to deal with a gaslighter earlier this year, yes. So I prefer this kind of gaslighting because at least I'm laughing.
Yeah, exactly. So, so if I'm going to go sort of around the circle, but Alicia, would you recommend this album to somebody who's like, never listened to him before, never heard of Jim Gaffigan? Would you recommend this album?
Can we call Alicia the Hat?
The hat, just the hat. Yeah, call me the hat.
Alicia the Hat.
Sorry, Le Chapeau. Because remember, yes.
I definitely would. I mean, being someone that doesn't, I guess, actively, is learning to actively look or watch and listen to all things comedy because of being at Second City, the people that I'm surrounding myself with, and kind of discovering this new interest. Like, it's been really fun. And Jim Gaffigan was sort of the first, most recent, I guess. I don't know how I'm going to say that. But anyway, he's just a good starting place for listening. And if you don't know your preference, I used to really like Dane Cook, but now I go back and I'm just like,
we all have that
you know what I mean?
Shame.
Right.
All laughed at Dane Cook.
Yeah.
We all did it.
And there's some stuff that's super funny still, but he's a nice place to.
He's a place in history.
Jim Gaffigan, the not sleazeball Dane Cook.
Oh,
It's not shock factor.
No.
It's you still reflect on the way you live your life. There's a commentary. It's well crafted. It is a nice
take a shower
gift with a pretty bow,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And it's also kind to the ears, as opposed to oh god, Bob Saget stuff. Whoa. I didn't accidentally.
I knew Bob Saget stuff before that, so I was old enough to.
I do, and that's the thing. As I slowly start to listen to. I have a unlimited data for my work phone, and so when we're driving, I think it's unlimited. I think it's
you stop. No, just hang your head in shame for 1 second.
Shared data.
With that hat on.
But I drive Toronto to Windsor often, so we listen to a lot of comedy. And on Spotify, you are granted the top 20 comedians or what's popular, right? And there was Bob Saget as an option. And I was like, should we dabble?
Yeah, you should.
And Wes was like, do it. And I was like,
I find him
one of those people
but I loved it.
I find him extra funny because I associate him with Full House. This super clean.
See, I don't. I grew up with MTV. I don't associate him with anything, and so when people are like, "Oh, Bob Saget," blah blah blah, I was like,
and then it's like, I'm gonna fucking go in here.
It's intense.
Before Full House, I knew of his material.
Really?
And so it was like, they're casting him.
See,
it's like BoJack Horseman, It's like
I love BoJack Horseman.
That character is like, that's a weird.
That
character.
would be interesting.
No, it's Bob Saget.
But
it's it's very clearly modeled after Bob Saget. It's like,
But yes, I would recommend Jim Gaffigan. I think he's a treat to the ears and funny.
I would recommend BoJack Horseman.
What's the question, by the way?
Would you recommend this album?
Okay.
Yes.
Oh fuck yeah, bud. Gonna go back right there to my Kingston roots. Listen to the goddamn album, you'll like it. It'll be funny. If you don't laugh, then you're a dick, okay?
If you don't like it, you're tragically hip. I'm sorry, we're doing the Kingston stuff.
Dude, I will put you in the pen.
What's the problem?
Yeah, we're a couple of beers deep.
Well, there's 9 of them, so
Yeah.
you
Anyway.
have your pick. Except for the women's prison, which is closed.
Yes.
Would I recommend it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would. I feel like at the very least, you get to hear a different style. At the max, you get to really appreciate the work that he's put into his performance. I mean, the way he's writing it, the way he's performing it, just all of it added up together. It's something that you could definitely take away and be like, you know what, that's pretty talented. Maybe it's not the jokes that I would have told, but the way that he delivered it is fantastic. And
You could feel good about it when your kids are in the room.
It's almost like you can't lose listening to it. There will be definitely something that you learn from it. Whether you learn from it, actually, even if you're not trying to learn from it, if you're just listening to it to just laugh, it's pretty funny. It's got its jokes, you know. You can relate to it one way or another. But if you're trying to take something away from it, it definitely has something to teach.
And if you're listening to it in the car, and your wife happens to be in the car, you're not going to end up sleeping on the couch and for the next.
Yeah, why not? It's like
right?
he said it, but it's true.
Yeah. And he said it cleanly.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm an editor, so I'm going to be as concise as possible on this. So I'm going to be a Yelp review. 9 out of 10. Good stories, good jokes. Would laugh again.
Oh.
9 out of 10? Whoa.
I definitely recommend this too. One thing I'd actually also recommend is a sitcom, which is like
So funny.
it's so subversive.
I might
So
look at
many
it just
ways.
because you suggested it right now.
Yeah,
That's credit to you, by the way.
because like you have this image of Jim Gaffigan, and
What's the image that you have?
Well, I mean, I don't now because I'm not familiar with his work, but
Fair
like going several years ago after his first couple of albums, I'm like, oh, clean cut, humor, family friendly, funny, but it's just they're but then you listen more deeply to this material, or you watch his show where it's like, oh, he's like a really lapsed Catholic.
Yeah.
And he's like
That's funny.
I like. Here's my opinion, and I'm going to mention Alicia because I feel like she kind of said it before. Did I mispronounce the name?
No, you're good.
Yeah, of course. Okay.
Oh no, I'm just like, oh.
No, because you said you kind of mentioned that it's a good starting point, and I feel like
I mean, it was for me. It was one of the most. I mean, I
feel
it was
like,
a starting point for me personally.
No, that's cool.
Yeah.
I feel like even as a suggestion, I think it's a great starting point.
Yeah, I mean, this album is good jumping on. It's not like you have to listen to 3 albums before to get a vibe for it.
Yeah.
Like there's some comedians who's like, okay, we'll start with this album, ignore this album.
You won't get this.
It's like
if you
this
don't
is
get
his
this.
style.
This is a good
moving to the
standalone
next
album.
album.
Like, these
this
albums-
is what you're getting.
Each of his albums and each of his specials,
Like hotel jokes, weight jokes.
they stand on their own.
Yeah.
Each of these, so yeah.
Yeah,
So like
like
all of
this album stands on its own. You don't need to know anything about him
Yeah.
to actually find it funny.
Yeah, and that, I think the sitcom maybe
More family kids oriented. Like he's
God,
talking about
no.
them more. No, I mean like he's talking. No.
This is not
He's
Full
talking.
House.
He's
Everyone
talking
listening right
about
now,
them
Matt's
more.
face
He's
is
involving.
just like,
There's more jokes
ooh.
involved with them, right? Like right now, he only mentioned it having 4 kids.
Okay, in the opening episode, the David Tell character, who's not David Tell, but an amazing comedian in his own right, Adam Goldberg, and Michael Ian Black, who's playing the gay real estate agent best friend of his wife Jeannie, are
You
watching
rewatched
their
the show?
kids in the park. I just rewatched the pilot last night.
This wasn't a part of the homework.
No, it wasn't. I just did this to just refresh myself. They're standing in a park. The real estate agent can't find the kids anywhere. There's just too many goddamn children.
Too many kids.
Too many kids. Like they shouldn't breed. This is ridiculous and out of control. The David Tell character is standing outside the park, getting a cop walks up to him and goes, "Do you have any children here, sir?" And he's like, "Oh God, no." And what do you do? What are you doing here then? I'm just watching these children. I think you're gonna need to come with me. And he's like, "Oh no, what? And he's like, so it's like that's how it wraps. And so it's like this show is that's
That's the thing.
Yeah, to clarify, just so I'm not misunderstood, what I meant was there would be more material about the kids and family than he had in this episode.
Yeah, but then he also does weird stuff, like an episode where it's addressing his it's addressing his food addictions, where he has a love affair with a cake, a red velvet cake, and what's that? Black Velvet is playing.
Everyone's got a face like, don't we all?
Black Velvet.
Oh, sorry. I'm
the
picturing
song,
Isabella
the song.
Rossellini,
Yeah, no.
James Blue Velvet.
Yeah, so every time
Bobby
it cuts to
Vinton.
every time it cuts to this cake, the song Black Velvet. So it's it was just such a weird Canadian reference for an American
Interesting.
Canadian comic.
But being a,
premise.
is he still a fairly
listens to premise.
religious man?
Yes and no. I mean, he's a lapsed Catholic. He joked about it with Stephen Colbert when he was
Yeah.
on there about how he's not a very good Catholic, and if he took a Catholic test, he failed
Right.
the Catholic test.
Right.
So
Doesn't mean
But he
you're
did
not
open
Catholic.
for the Pope And
he
that
opened
was
for the Pope.
like
yeah.
that's pretty incredible. But I think that's like such power.
And to Pope Francis's credit, I mean, like, when has a Pope ever had a stand-up open for them?
Sure. But I think that's the coolest thing about Jim Gaffigan is he is so family friendly, yet he does have such a subversive, theme throughout, and he's literally in the homes of a lot of these American people that can totally relate to that. What he's talking about in sort of a negative light.
What is suicide?
Even like a,
and then one actually
you know,
say,
if you're the Pope after the Nazi youth Pope, then you're kind of just gonna win regardless.
Even the bit that he has. Sorry.
I'm done.
No.
Cool.
Actually, I was just going to say the previous Pope being, like a zombie incarnate.
That's all good. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say the previous, Nazi youth Pope. My reference to him is, living zombie Pope. That's what he looked like.
And Sonny.
I was just gonna say that he does bring in what's going on, so everybody could kind of relate to it. Not just the heavy, not just the I'm super fit, the gym, but even like, what are we doing with all these pictures? Like, I thought that whole bit was amazing.
Yeah.
I'm taking pictures of everybody. Like,
this
I
is
take
my
more
wedding
pictures
computer.
of my
More
kids.
pictures than his father ever
Looked at him, yeah.
Which is that.
Then
is,
I gotta
that's
come
layered because like, A, that's a lot of pictures, but B, it's like his father didn't love him
Or pay attention to him, or he never got that affection.
Wait a second.
100%,
Yeah.
man. You know what's
very sad?
you know what's crazy?
Oh my God, I want to cry now.
Like we kind of go into a deeper thing when we say that, because I feel like comedy for a lot of writers is a therapy. And I feel, you know what I mean?
Yep.
And I feel like he's totally expressing it there. It's like, what the fuck? Like, this guy didn't even look at me. Like, you know what I mean? I don't know.
Okay.
That stood out for sure.
Yeah. Okay, so
Agreed.
if people want to find you all on social media, they'll work our way around again. Alicia?
Literally the @ Alicia Carrick. ALICIA CARRICK.
Excellent. Liz?
The @ LIZZZ. That's 3 Z's. LIZZZARUS. Lazarus.
Do I really have to say the @ 2019,
You don't have to say
guys?
the @
2019.
Oh my
What's your handle? What's your
Twitter,
handle?
I call
baby.
myself a dinosaur. Come on.
SB, my initial, Sunny B, SB, the critic at Twitter. So just find me on Twitter.
You might need to spell it.
And for me, look,
Sierra Bravo, the critic. I'm not gonna spell it. It's spelled the way it sounds.
Yeah.
Google
Is it
guys.
critic or critique?
critic.
Thank you.
Yeah.
For me, Max Supernova, all one word, all lowercase on Instagram.
Wait, say it again.
Max Supernova.
Max Supernova. Oh shit.
Dang,
All right,
you do
well,
not
I
leave
am
anything
gonna
to the
follow you.
imagination.
Okay, well,
Max
thank you everybody
Supernova.
for joining us today, and
Thank you,
Thank
Matt.
you.
Thanks,
for
Matt.
having us on the podcast.
Big shout out to Debbie too.
yeah.
Thank you, Debbie.